Joseph Edelheit, Doug Pagitt, and in the other chair, Doug Pagitt. This is the live stream that's also a podcast, unlike the podcast, which is also a live stream. You try to figure out the difference. This is Rabbi Joseph Edelheit. I refer to Rabbi Joseph as my rabbi, so thank you for being my rabbi.
Thank you.
A pastor and a rabbi. And we just had an afternoon together.
We did.
A couple of drinks and a great time. So you are working on a new project, and I want people to know about it and what you're doing. So you're going to launch your voice into the world.
I am.
In some new ways.
You gave me an amazing gift for which gratitude will be profound for a long time. Somewhere in between, we are living at a time of too much certainty and not enough ambiguity. We're unable to engage because the divisions are too deep and too wide.
Mm-hmm.
And I have for a long time believed that somewhere in between, not in the center, this is not about being moderate, as it were, but somewhere in between. That's where the dialogue happens. That's where we learn new things. The years I've been part of Solomon's Porch, the opportunities to learn that the stereotypes about evangelicals are as dangerous as the stereotypes about Jews.
Wow.
So
that's gracious of you, but I'm not sure it carries the same power, but thank you.
Somewhere in between. We're limited, we're incomplete, we're unfinished. We are literally somewhere in between.
And this, you made a little note there that this doesn't mean being moderate.
No.
So it doesn't mean don't be fully this way, don't be fully that way. Find yourself in the middle of ideas, of suggestions. You have the thing you've helped me to realize is the way you be somewhere in between is to be fully you in relationship with others different than yourself that are fully them. That's the only way you actually get in between.
That's right.
This halfway across the road business.
No, it's not halfway.
Yeah.
We're born and we're going to die. Those two are certain. I don't think there's much else in life that I can confirm is certain. And we're always between our births and our deaths, somewhere in between. Think of Ecclesiastes 3, best covered by the birds. And before the birds, I think Judy Collins did the
Is that right?
cover. Yeah.
Huh.
Turn.
That's not an original birds.
No, they were covering it.
Huh.
They were covering it. There is a season for everything. And I think that's one of the reasons that biblical passage, those 9 verses in Ecclesiastes 3, it takes every possible experience. There is a time to be born and a time to die. Where are we today? And over our beers, we talked about the issues around the current presidency.
Yeah.
We've talked about Messianic Jews. 2 things that rile both of us up.
Wow.
But they're both realities.
Yeah.
We're not going to be able to dismiss them, push them aside. We have to engage them.
Yes. And I've been, one of the reasons I'm so excited about what you're wanting to do, getting your voice out in some new ways, and in this particular somewhere in between project especially, and re-narrating what a faithful spiritual life would look like. I'm going to caveat my caveat for a minute, which people who listen to this stuff are like, there he goes again. But it's not every person's experience with Judaism where they hear the Jewish teacher talk about spirituality, the spirituality of humanity and the human experience the way you do. For a
Thank
lot of
you.
Christians, especially, their connection to Jewish teachers is factual stuff.
Yeah, no, we're not dealing with factoids.
Yes.
We're dealing with the experience of being alive.
Yeah.
And let's ask this question. They were selling an Anne Frank Halloween costume.
No.
Yes, yes.
So for those who might not know,
Anne Frank, the Diary of Anne Frank, one of
uh,
the most significant uh, personal statements about a young person in the Shoah, the Holocaust. She would eventually die in one of the extermination camps. So, what do you think about that?
yeah,
Is that cultural appropriation? Is that just bad taste? Is that entrepreneurial stupidity?
hmm. I can't even like. I'm rarely found without a suggestion of how one could think. I can't imagine a situation in which you would suggest that a Halloween costume. I mean, maybe one of the great heroes of 20th century, but that is uh, it's just I can't even consider it. Um, how do you think about that as someone who for whom the Holocaust has been for a lot of us the Holocaust is a historic fact. For some it's a of course piece of fake news. But for any reasonable person it is a historic fact. But the number of times I've been with you, I'm reminded it's a present reality for you. It's a present
I
memory.
I have a significant number of numbers of my extended family who perished in three death camps.
Yeah.
Uh, I was born November 11th, 1946. I consider that a birth date of happenstance.
Hmm.
Had Hitler been able to reach his goal, there would have been no Jews.
Hmm.
The number 6 million is a number of happenstance.
Wow.
So if you're born after Auschwitz, well, luck,
Hmm.
fate, you have a different burden.
Hmm.
So,
I've never asked you this. Can I interrupt and ask you this question?
sure.
How were you how from what you know, how were your parents thinking about the need to have children in the middle 1940s? They
Uh,
were in the United States.
yes. So my birth father was a pilot in Europe, and I'm sure when he came back, the context of having a child
Hmm.
was very much anchored in his experience of war.
Mm-hmm.
Not sure, never talked to my mother,
Mm.
who was a very secular, non observant Jew.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I'm not sure. In 1945, I was born in November 46. I'm not sure people
Hmm.
had taken the experience of
Oh,
the camps
that's
and
interesting.
then begun to say, well, do you think we should add
Hmm.
Jews?
Hmm.
Um, we're living in a perverse moment
Hmm.
in which the president of the United States is known through a reality TV show, which is of course oxymoronic because there was nothing reality
Yeah.
in the nature.
Yeah. This is what a reality TV show looks like. This nightmare we're
Exactly.
in. Yeah.
So the fact that we can now twist in Frank.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, is it camp? Is it kitsch? What is, who did that?
Yeah.
Do you want to be at the table where they were talking about it and ask the people, really?
Hmm.
Um,
So I was we got a bit onto that because you your idea of getting your voice out, which I think is so important, fits in this scope of helping people to be in between, but not in the middle.
I want them to understand that we're all limited. Being human is about learning how to live with your limits. So, off the fly, let's deal with this question of how would I explain to someone that wearing a costume of someone who died in Bergen-Belsen is appropriate, is not the word I would use. Inappropriate is not. WTF? What are we doing here?
Yeah.
But every single day we wake up and we're confronted. Harvey Weinstein, the president arguing with the widow of a serviceman who died.
Yeah.
And I think people are disengaging, Doug. And so they don't want to be somewhere in between. They'll pick this side or that side where they're certain.
Yeah. I certainly feel, I feel that. I have a high level of commitment to be engaged, and I feel the pull to just cluster up and
I don't need this anymore.
Yeah, I don't need this hassle anymore.
Yeah. And when the world is confronted by as much unexpected and unknown, Zika. Okay, I live in Brazil now.
I totally forgot about Zika. It was
before
November
Brazil.
8th, 2016.
Right. And it's still serious.
Really?
Oh, sure.
Huh.
So do you bathe yourself in the deepest part of mosquito repellent, or do you not walk through the forest?
And that feels to you like the choice people feel like they're having to make?
Pretty much about everything.
About everything, yeah.
The monuments are going to stay up, and if you're white, then you have to deal with the embarrassment and shame of Robert E. Lee or Lake Calhoun or whatever. Yes, where did we get either or?
Yeah.
When did you get the email that life was going to become either or? I missed that note.
Yeah. But isn't that right? This is a bit of a setup question, softball question for you. Isn't that basically religion's argument, be it Judaism or Christianity or Islam, other official doctrinal oriented and practice-based religions, that there's some either or, that you're either in or you're out, you're this or you're that?
But our adult children aren't that.
Yeah.
The people we pastor to, no matter what our connection with an institution, I don't know anybody's life.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Is either or.
Yeah.
I know a lot of scenarios and scripts that are either or. But I know a lot of people are caught by circumstances. Eve, I sent you Eve's photos.
Your daughter.
From the hurricane.
She's a photographer in Florida, South Florida.
Tampa Bay Times. She was in shelters working during Irma. Left her home, her mother, her husband, in a shelter. The paper sent her out.
Wow.
I'm in Rio, texting her.
Yeah.
Dad, I'm working. Are you okay? I'm working. But it was terrifying. Could you be objective as a journalist covering a hurricane in which the new house you bought was threatened?
Wow. So this project you're working on wants to help people see the biblical narrative, Jewish biblical narrative, in a way that becomes useful for these times. This in between, this space, you say, is that's not a new project.
No.
Of the 21st century. This is an ancient human project.
And I think the biblical text affords us a profound example in 6 classic biblical figures,
Hmm.
each of whom, and as pairs, represents the fact that the biblical text wants us to take seriously nobody has it all.
Hmm.
No perfect tens, no Nadia Comaneci.
Hmm. It's a great reference. Because she was the first figure skater, right? To get all
Not
tens.
a figure skater, gymnast.
Oh, a gymnast, yes. 2 beers
And
in.
within 90 minutes, there was another perfect 10.
Really?
Yeah.
Even from the Russian judges.
Yeah. So
it's for you, Donald Trump.
Really?
Yeah, right. There's a bit of inflated judgment at the time.
I mean, and so if we've moved from 1976,
nice.
where the perfect tens are,
yeah,
people expect tens now.
That's fun. So I hadn't put that together. I didn't know there were 2 actually back to back. I knew that Nadia Comaneci. Wasn't the movie with Bo Derek 10 also created at that time?
Yeah.
There was like a zeitgeist going on about that kind of perfection narrative,
and
wasn't there?
It is accessible.
Wow.
And we want our kids to get 10s.
Wow. Like you're noticing a 35, 40-year arc.
Yes.
That has really infiltrated generations of people now.
And now you're not really engaged if you say, well, I don't think you have to be perfect.
So in the biblical texts, who are the 6 characters that you?
Abraham and Rachel, patriarchal, matriarchal. Okay. Moses and Miriam, the heart of the matter, as it were, the prophetic. And David and Esther, the 2 monarchs.
The 2 monarchs.
King David, Queen Esther.
Yeah. That's great. Do people talk? Is that a common Jewish phrase to refer to them, or is that an Edelheitism?
It might be an Edelheitism.
I love that.
It might be.
And over drinks, you were saying it's God, Torah, and Israel. Abraham and Rebecca.
The 3 defining characteristics of biblical and then rabbinic Judaism: God, Torah, revelation. Yeah. Revelation. Moses and Israel, the people and the land.
The people. Yeah. So then you have the monarch and the.
Okay. So Abraham gives us monotheism, God, the first person to intuit God. And Moses and Miriam provide us revelation. They bring the people out for the purpose of going to Mount Sinai. And both are denied entrance into the land. Neither go into the land.
And that's a big deal in your way of seeing these stories.
Each one is missing something. David and Esther don't have God. King David is not allowed to build the temple. The book of Esther is one of 2 books, doesn't mention God.
And those 6 narratives start to tell you that there's a connection. There's a connection between those.
I don't think it's coincidental.
How humanity should see itself.
We need to embrace the limits, the unfinished, and the imperfect.
The limits in Abraham, the unfinished in the
in all land 6.
In all 6. Huh.
In biblical Hebrew, the word perfect refers to the past tense. Imperfect is the future tense.
Oh, come on, really?
Yes.
Like, is that just a cute linguistic happening?
No, it is what fantastic. The tenses are called.
That the past, you can talk about almost as if you could talk about the past in some sense in which
because it's finished.
It was perfect.
Wow. It's finished. The word perfect means to complete something.
Huh.
We think of perfect as flawless. I don't think my life is going to be perfect until the instant after my last breath.
Finished.
finished,
So imperfection is it's still in the making. It's still in the doing.
incomplete.
Is that an Edelheitism or is that a classic?
I think it's a way of
It's great.
the deriving from what I would like to call my contemporary midrash.
Hmm.
That this is what I've been working on and what today you're urging me to put out there.
To get in the internet every way
Yeah.
possible. The narrative that really rings as good news for people in their humanity.
You needed to get that in, the good news.
Well, what I wanted to do, you see, we should also mention that you have a doctorate in Christian studies. So I'm not going to slide a good news or I'm not going to slide a good news by Edelheit. He's going to grab that one in a minute. There's a lot of people, the reason I bring this up, who might pay attention to my stream and podcast, for whom good news, this acceptance without perfection business, oh, that's a Jesus innovation, they would argue. And that, because you know how Christians tend to do this, the bad news is the Jewish scriptures, the Old Testament, and then the good news comes. And so for a Jew, you've been proclaiming a kind of good news all along, and this is the good news.
And the difference between us is the not yetness, the completedness. Well, when is your good news going to be complete there, Doug?
Yeah.
The
back at you.
Second coming.
Yeah, that's what creates that whole narrative, isn't it? That's that there's another thing we're all waiting for.
And it comes at the end when all this other labeling process won't matter.
It's really good.
Thanks.
See, this is why you should all know about Rabbi Joseph Edelheit, soon to be the greatest sensation on YouTube and Facebook and all the places. Thank you for being my rabbi. Thank you, friend.
Thank you for being my friend and my teacher.
The best. All right, everybody. There's a little afternoon delight for you if you're just sitting around watching your phone or on the internet.